For weeks, people have been asking one question: what really happened to Ashlee Jenae in Zanzibar? Now her fiance, Joe McCann, is speaking out in a new interview with TMZ, and he's revealing details about Ashlee's state of mind in the days and hours before her death. According to Joe, there were signs that he says point to a very different story than what many people online believe. But will his comments answer the family's questions or create even more controversy? Let's listen to what Joe had to say, and then we'll break down the key moments together. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Interviewed by Charlie Neff of TMZ. For people who only know your story through headlines, tell me about Ashlee. Who was she to you? Joe McCann says, first and foremost, her name was Ashlee Robinson with an L-Y, not Ashlee, L-E-E. It's important to understand this distinction because many people knew Ashlee Jenae, but the woman I knew was Ashlee Robinson. They got a typo already. Ashlee Jenae was a persona she created that evolved over time. Ashlee Robinson was nothing like Ashlee Jenae. Ashlee was my best friend and soulmate. Ashlee was wise beyond her years, goofy at times and funny, intelligent, extremely creative and clever, classy and elegant, sweet, and a true hustler who made something out of nothing, a quality we both shared and bonded over. Ashlee provided a love to me like no one ever had, and we were inseparable. Together nearly 98% of every day we dated. We truly only wanted to be with each other all the time. In the weeks and days leading up to her passing, Ashlee began to open up to me in explicit detail about her past, namely her traumatic childhood, as well as some of the abusive and dysfunctional relationships she had with prior boyfriends. What I've learned since her passing only further confirms the struggles she faced. It's important to understand the deeply rooted pain and trauma she carried with her as Ashlee Robinson, not Ashlee Jenae. Charlie Neff of TMZ asks, how did you two meet? Joe McCann says, in September of 2024, I was speaking at a number of conferences in Singapore, putting on a cultural music event sponsored by my company, Asymmetric, as well as attending the launch party for an online casino deal that I secured for Iggy Azalea. Iggy's event was a rodeo-themed party where she flew in around 50 models from the U.S. to work the launch party. Ashlee was a talent coordinator, providing half of the models for the event, and at the last minute was also asked to work it herself, so she did. The night prior to the casino launch party, I held my asymmetric party, and the first time I met Ashlee was when I was behind the DJ booth at my event. She tapped me on the shoulder and said to me, Iggy asked if you could change the music. My response was a simple no. I saw Ashlee briefly at the casino launch party, but the following day I DM'd her on Twitter X as she was tweeting about the event. We started chatting and I told her I was moving to Miami in 2 weeks. She informed me that she lived there. On November 2nd, 2024, we went on our first date and were inseparable from then on. Charlie Neff, what made you fall in love with her? Joe McCann, she was perfect, almost too perfect. I fell in love with her on our first date, and she did with me as well. In fact, in a text that Ashlee later shared with me, halfway through our dinner on our first date, her best friend checked in on her, and they keep doing typos. They got Ashlee's, not Ashlee, but Ashlee's response was, we're getting married. And so here's a screenshot of the text. Hope you're enjoying your night. LLY, whatever that means. She says we're getting married. Her friend says heard it here first. Ashlee sends laughing emojis. He's perfect. And her friend says, I love this for you. Congrats, sis. For our first date, Ashlee was 2 hours late. She texted me asking if I wanted to reschedule, and I told her no, I'll wait. When she approached the bar and I felt her hand tapping me on the shoulder, it was like electricity shot through my body. The feeling was beyond description. On that date, we learned that we shared so many interests that we both considered rare. So much so that I actually captured them in an Apple Note because it was simply uncanny. Ashlee mentioned the same thing to her best friend in another text that Ashlee later shared with me. Friend says, what's not to like? Ashlee said we just had a lot in common, which he wasn't expecting. And friend says, enjoy. Call me in the morning. Have a good night, pumpkin. So Joe goes on to say, Ashlee had an incredibly gentle and sweet spirit. She had a loving presence that was infectious. All of my friends and family who ever met her all felt it. She also had her own thing going on and was a fellow entrepreneur like me, which was extremely attractive. I respected her hustle and she respected mine. She was also adaptable and comfortable in any environment, much like me, another characteristic we shared. Whether we were watching Netflix for hours on end on the couch, her absolute favorite thing to do, or attending a business dinner, perfectly. She fit perfectly and felt comfortable in her own skin and on my arm. And she wasn't afraid to act silly with me in public either. We had a running game of who could embarrass the other more, and neither of us ever won. Ashlee was just, in a word, cool. She had exceptional taste, but was also infinitely curious about new experiences and ideas. And of course, she was out of this world gorgeous. The photos and videos people see of her online exemplify her beauty, but in person, it's impossible to put into words how stunning she was. Charlie Neff, you proposed during her 31st birthday trip to Tanzania. What was that moment like? Joe McCann, actually, this is only true in a superficial sense. See, I proposed to Ashlee Jenae on April 3rd. I proposed to Ashley Robinson before we left for Africa. And that's the point. We had a private life. Ashlee Jenae was the public persona. Ashley Robinson was the private person. On March 27, 2026, Ashlee and I attended an NBA game, the Dallas Mavericks versus the Portland Trail Blazers. After the game, we went out to eat and then to a bar owned by one of our friends where it was Drake night. On the way home, Ashlee was being her typical self, blasting the Deftones at full volume in my car, but I turned down the music and asked her, "Do you want to try the ring on?" Ashlee knew I had bought a ring but didn't know when I was going to propose to her. Her initial response was no, but within seconds, with a giant grin on her face, she said, "Okay, yes, I do." When we got home, I went into our walk-in closet, and she was in the master bathroom that is connected to the closet, only separated by a door, which I left partially open. She was taking off her makeup and just chatting away about our night, and then she opened the door and I was holding the ring. She immediately burst into tears and kept saying over and over again, "It's perfect, it's perfect." I was able to catch a few pics of this candid moment between us because it was for us and only us. And I don't know why she couldn't look at the camera, but okay. The next day, Ashlee took to ChatGPT, as she did every day with regard to almost all aspects of her life, to help her analyze the most optimal ways of posting the happy news for Ashlee Jenae's Instagram account. In addition to her personal use, Ashlee extensively used ChatGPT for every single post, reel, and story she posted on Instagram, with conversations going on for hours sometimes. Out of respect for Ashlee, the specific content of her ChatGPT question and answer sessions will remain confidential. Ashlee never took the ring off from that moment on. And he's showing that is from March 28th, 2:03 a.m. until it was time. Okay, so I'm sorry. So she never took the ring off from that moment on until it was time for Ashlee Jenae to receive a proposal. So from March 28th to April 22nd. I'm sorry, April 2nd. April 2nd is when they were in Tanzania. I'm an intensely private person, but I know how much Ashlee wanted to have that moment on social media, and I wanted her to have that moment. I was always supportive of her influencer career, through which she made a living, but also spread her unique brand of altruism. Ashlee declined countless lucrative promos and ambassadorships, but had recently started to reach out to local businesses she wanted to support that shared her values. Ashlee informed me that on social media, the proposal is a huge deal for women, and of course, Ashlee was masterful at tuning the algorithm to make posts go viral. She had the idea of the proposal happening with the lion, but with the lion lying down in front of us. I changed the plan she had at the last minute, which is why she was genuinely surprised in the video. I messaged our host at Serval Wildlife to confirm. So he included text to Serval Wildlife about changing the time of the proposal. And that is how Ashlee Jenae, not Ashley Robinson, received a proposal from me. Once again, Ashlee went on to use ChatGPT to hyper-optimize her post about the proposal. The post went crazy viral as she expected. Charlie Neff, the trip took a horrible turn when Ashlee took her own life. What happened in those final days together? Joe McCann says to understand what happened in those final days, it's important to understand what happened a few weeks prior to us leaving for Tanzania because Ashlee's behavior at the Zuri Zanzibar resort was entirely consistent with her behavior a few weeks prior in Bend, Oregon, while we were on a snowboarding trip. Ashlee and I planned on having a family together. Ashlee desperately wanted a baby girl. She had her name picked out and everything. She queried ChatGPT on several occasions over many months about what our baby would look like based on our pictures, the chances for my blue eye color versus her eye color, the best time of the year to get pregnant, and so on. She told me she wanted a daughter specifically so she could love and care for her the way she always wanted to be loved and cared for as a child. However, in January 2026, Ashlee learned from her doctor that there was a possibility she would not be able to carry a child. She was devastated. That night, she broke down crying. I consoled her, held her, and told her everything was going to be okay and that we're still going to have a baby. When we arrived in Bend on March 12, 2026 for our snowboarding trip, her behavior dramatically changed. Ashlee was completely unrecognizable in her actions and words, a different person. She was visibly upset. She was screaming and yelling about things that would typically not merit even a short discussion and threatening to end our relationship. While I was in Zanzibar after Ashlee passed, I learned from authorities in Zanzibar that Ashlee had engaged in a lengthy question and answer session with ChatGPT about taking significant amounts of Valium, as well as how much Valium it would take to off her. In his press conference on June 4, 2026, Zuberi Chimbera, Deputy Director of Investigations for the Zanzibar Police Force, confirmed the existence of this ChatGPT session. So he shows snapshots of when the investigator said these things. All right, on March 13th, our first day of snowboarding, she hit her head on a rock and sustained a concussion, even though she was wearing a helmet. However, she refused to go to the doctor. For days after, Ashlee complained that she was dizzy and was forgetting things she said only moments prior. Nonetheless, she insisted on riding multiple days on the mountain after this occurred. Here's an exchange and text message. Are you okay? I had to get a bite to eat. I was very dizzy. Sorry I didn't update you fast. I'm feeling better, but I needed water and a seat heading out in 4. He says 4 minutes or 4 p.m. She says 4 minutes. I had to check out. He says, check out from where? She said, I said I needed to eat. He says, oh, right. She says, I'm in the car now. He says, please be careful. And if you get dizzy, just pull over and I'll come meet you. He says in the interview, after I pleaded with her for days, she went to the doctor when she got back to Portland. The doctor confirmed her concussion and prescribed her medication. He says it's not safe out here for you. Please get in the car so I can take you home and I'll leave you alone so you can have some time to yourself without me around. You are 6.6 miles from home. It's going to be dark in an hour. If you walk, it will take 2.5 hours. You are not safe out here alone. I'm begging you. And then she says, you said your piece. This is after a panic attack. Panic attack on the highway outside Bend, Oregon. Well, I don't know why that message is placed there, but okay. All right, so while in Bend, I was on the receiving end of multiple public outbursts by Ashlee, a behavior that I had not previously seen from her. My response to each outburst was to physically distance myself to ensure that I was removed from the situation. At one point, Ashlee tried opening the door of my car at a high speed on a rural highway on the way back from the mountain. I pulled over when it was safe to do so as she was having a panic attack, another behavior I had never seen before. She got out and then began walking back to the house on foot. I pleaded with her to get back in as it wasn't safe for her. She walked a mile and then got in an Uber. Wow. When I knew she was home, I arrived back at the house and saw that Ashlee was standing barefoot in the driveway. She began to take all of the snowboarding equipment out of my car and threw it all over the front yard and driveways. She then threw a snowboarding helmet towards me at point blank range, striking me directly in the face. I did not retaliate. I picked up all the equipment and placed it back in my car and asked her to come inside. So this is a picture, apparently, of when she threw the equipment out, y'all. From there, she went outside and began to walk into traffic while threatening to commit suicide by being run over. I pleaded with her to get out of the road and got her to come back inside, after which I left the house to create physical distance between us so the situation could stabilize. She called and texted her mother, Yolanda Indris. This picture is wild, y'all. Ashlee also texted me to tell me our relationship was over and she was moving back to the East Coast. All right, he says in text, you gave up on us this past week. I felt something was amiss. And then you finally told me that your sadness was associated with your feelings of not being able to have children. Then it all made sense. I gave you grace and then you came right back at me. I asked you to calm down. You refused. Previously, you threw a snowboard helmet at my face and your behavior was concerning me. So I decided to leave the situation. I'm devastated for us. A heartbreak. She said you refused to talk to me. So this took place after the events in Bend, Oregon. All right, so he goes on to say, however, I got on the phone with her and she asked me to come back to the house. So I did. When I entered the house, she began to cry and admitted to me that she was terrified she was going to not be able to have a baby with me and that I would leave her. I held her and told her it was going to be fine, that I would never leave her, that I bought a ring so we could get married and that I was committed to her. The next day, it was like a switch flipped on her. She was completely back to normal. She had me pull over on the side of the road to joyously run through a green field. The pictures are great quality. In Zanzibar, Ashlee's erratic behavior returned on April 6th, right when we arrived at the Zuri Zanzibar Resort one day after her birthday. The first of several public outbursts happened at lunch on April 6th with a server present. In the 2 days that followed, we engaged in a series of heated discussions in our villa as well as in public areas instigated by these outbursts. Ashlee's behavior had grown even more bizarre than the behaviors I observed in Ben. She was chain smoking cigarettes. Ashlee didn't smoke. She woke up and drank a bottle of white wine immediately. I'd never seen her drink in the morning except maybe a glass of wine or mimosa at brunch. This was not Ashlee at all. This was someone else. And in text messages here, he says, I have not and would never yell or scream at you in public. You put your hands on me yesterday. You threw a snowboarding helmet at my head at point blank range. You screamed in public multiple times in Bend and now in Zanzibar. You really don't see the issue here, do you? Yes or no? She says, this really not a conversation I will continue to have over text. When and if you are ready to speak either on the phone or in person, that is fine. You're not hearing my point of view. I keep hearing yours and acknowledging them. And he says, I just asked you yes or no question. So could there be something missing that he's not sharing, y'all? I don't know. Throughout our time in Zanzibar, Ashlee demanded that I take the engagement ring back from her and insisted that I call the engagement off. I declined every time and I told her I wanted her to be my wife. She took the ring off and placed it in the safe in the villa. Eventually, I was able to calm her down enough so that we could at least go and enjoy the beach together. And what proved to be a pleasant escape from reality, Ashlee wanted to shoot some content of her riding horses on the beach, so we got ready and headed down there. When we arrived, she forgot the ring and she wanted it in her photos. She went back to the villa but forgot the code to the safe. She came back frustrated, but I told her I'd go get it and to not worry. When I arrived in the room, I sent her a pic of the safe, showing the time delay remaining so she'd have a sense when I returned and to calm her. He, in this text says, I'm not sure who this is yet. He said, you need to sign a paper at the front desk. Just come back when you're ready because you entered the wrong code 5 times. The save locks for 10 minutes. There's still some time left. I have to wait. 6:10, 6:11, he sent that pic. And then he texts her at 6:28 asking where was she. The following is one of the last photos of me and Ashlee together. She requested that a bystander take some pics of us, and in true Ashlee fashion, she was directing the production while displaying the ring. Shortly thereafter, Ashlee and I were chilling out on lounge chairs in the sand. When it was time to go, I got up to walk to the bar to pay our bill. At this moment, Ashlee began another outburst that drew the attention of nearby security personnel. I told her I was simply going to pay the bill and pleaded with her to remain calm. She decided she would go back to the villa, and I told her I would stay behind to watch the sunset. When Ashlee left, I decided to contact the Zanzibar guest services via WhatsApp to inquire about a separate villa. And this shows where he got another villa booked. Three-bedroom per night, $5,600. Wow. All right, he says, I then walked back to the villa, and after taking a shower, Ashlee initiated another heated discussion. What are they talking about? It was at this moment that I finally told her, okay, give me the ring back. The engagement is off. She reacted by yelling, smashing lamps and glassware in the room, and telling me, among other things, I hope I choke and die in here tonight. During this time, someone from the neighboring Villa 24 contacted the front desk, letting them know that a couple in Villa 25 was having a disagreement. Within minutes, 4 security guards showed up at our Villa 25. Suddenly, Ashlee became entirely calm and explained to the security that there was no issue and that everything was fine, even going on to say to them, as the woman in this situation, I would let you know if there was something wrong. At this point, the head of security asked if we needed some time or separate villas. I volunteered to get a separate villa and explained to them that I was already in touch with guest services over WhatsApp. My bags already packed. I left to head to the reception desk, handed off my key for Villa 25, and received my key for Villa 65. Once safely apart from Ashlee at the reception desk, Ashlee's mother, Yolanda Indris, tried calling me and texted me that Ashlee wouldn't answer her phone calls and that Ashlee was texting terrible things. Okay, mom left that part out. So, did you take your things or is it still in her room? Is what mom is asking. And then he says, it's possible some of my stuff is there, but I have most of my things. And mom says, what room is she in? He says, is she not responding to you? She's texting me. Villa 25. Mom says she is texting terrible things and won't answer the phone. Is it possible to fly out tomorrow? John says in the interview, I then headed down with Missouri staff to my new villa, number 65. I then started to receive incredibly disturbing texts from Ashlee stating her clear intent to take her life. I tried calling her multiple times, but she wouldn't pick up. I begged and pleaded with her, but to no avail. Ashlee in text says, no need for flight info. Take care of your kids. See, why would she say that? I wish you the best in the rest of your life. Sorry, I wasn't enough. Tried my best. Goodbye forever. Remember me as someone who cared. Don't let anyone I didn't like carry my casket. No attempt this time. Goodbye. She says, putting you out of your misery, Z. He says, please call me. She said, please leave me be. He says, I keep calling you. Now, why isn't he going over to the villa at this point? She says, stop. He says, I'm begging you, please answer my call. Please answer the phone. You're scaring me and your mom and everyone who loves you. Please, I'm begging you. He shows him continuing to call. No answer. He says in the interview, I also called her villa directly 3 times by pressing 1 plus the villa number 25. She never answered. Her last communication to me was simply the word stop. Okay, then the interviewer says, authorities said when you were at the Zanzibar hotel, there was some kind of disagreement and you two ended up in different rooms. Can you clarify what happened? Which he says he already addressed that. previously in the interview. Charlie Neff says at that time, there was a great deal of speculation about what had happened. Her parents told me that they felt Ashlee's death was suspicious and that she didn't have mental health problems. What do you think about these comments? He says, well, as a parent myself, I empathize with her parents in the deepest possible way. I find these comments utterly confusing. The devastating reality was that Ashlee, who was a truly wonderful but tortured soul, did suffer from visibly evident and significant mental health problems. Moreover, to anyone who insists on believing against all reality that Ashlee's death was suspicious, I would suggest that they watch Deputy Director Chimbera's June 4th press conference, in which he left zero doubt that Ashlee's death was tragically by suicide. And he said in the press conference, the investigation confirmed without any doubt that the act by the deceased, which she carried out on the 8th of April, 2026, of attempting to hang herself at the Zurich Hotel, was what led to or caused her death on April 9, 2026, at around 3 p.m. at Ambola or Global Hospital located. Therefore, based on the evidence collected regarding that incident, there was no person who can be linked in any way whatsoever to the death of the deceased. The evidence confirms that the deceased died as a result of her suicide attempt, which occurred on April 8, 2026. The interviewer says the family insinuated you had something to do with her death. What do you have to say about that? He says any insinuation that I had anything to do with Ashlee's death is categorically false, defamatory, and malicious. Charlie Neff says, given the speculation that surrounded this case, I want to ask you directly, did you ever threaten, abuse, or have any intention of harming Ashlee? Joe, I keep calling that man John. Is his name Joe McCann? Joe says, I would never harm any woman in any way, and that includes Ashlee. Absolutely not. Never. And in fact, her family knew this, as demonstrated by a text message between Ashlee and her mom in 2025 when Ashlee accidentally lost my credit card. Mom says, hey, what's going on? Ashlee said, no luck of valet, and they helped me search the car. I got to rip the Band-Aid off. He's not mad at all. He was like, well, now you don't have a credit card till the new one gets here. LOL. Me panicking for nothing. Your girl is traumatized. Mom says, it's been a traumatic ride for me. She says, laughing my butt off, why were you traumatized? He's not a violent man or doesn't lash out or anything. Why would you be scared? Me, I was scared because it's my first credit card he's given me. And he doesn't provide what Mom said as to why she was traumatized by her, Ashlee, losing Joe's credit card. Joe says, I did, however, tolerate Ashlee becoming physical with me on more than one occasion, including in bed. She also confided with me that she had been in multiple abusive relationships with other men. Charlie Neff says after Ashlee was discovered, she was still alive and was taken to the hospital, where she died the next day. The family said during that time you were distant and they found that odd. Do you feel you were distant? Joe says, while Ashlee's family is entitled to their feelings, the reality is that I was entirely preoccupied with trying to save Ashlee during this whole period. I did everything in my power to assist the doctors and nurses frantically working to keep Ashlee alive. I even created a shared Google Doc that I used to constantly update Ashlee's family with every bit of information as I was coordinating with multiple doctors, hotel staff, and even Meta Evac service provider out of Nairobi. I know that they received this Google Doc that had all the information in it because they shared it with other members of their family and friends who requested access to it. He provides proof. Share it with Sean Stanford, Ricky Blue. Medevac quote. Charlie Neff says, do you have any regrets about how you handled things? Joe says, I regret that I couldn't alleviate Ashlee's deep mental anguish and pain sooner. She shared numerous deeply disturbing things with me in the weeks and days leading up to her death, and she spiraled quickly during that time. I wish I could have brought her over from the darkness into the light. Charlie Neff, we were told that Ashlee's family didn't invite you to her funeral. Were you aware of this? Joe says, although we had been in communication during Ashlee's final hours, Ashlee's mother never reached out to me after April 9th, and her father never reached out after April 10th. I decided to respect their desire for distance. Moreover, my priorities were to get Ashlee's remains home and to cooperate with the authorities to assist them in their investigation. There was simply never any form of communication from her parents or any other members of her family with me with respect to the funeral. Charlie Neff, would you have gone? Joe McCann, absolutely. Charlie Neff, have you done anything to honor her since her passing? Good question. Joe says, yes, since I was assisting the authorities in Zanzibar with their investigation, I was unable to attend her funeral. I was still in Zanzibar, so on that day, I wrote a eulogy and posted it at 11:11 p.m. East Africa time, EAT. I'm not reading what he wrote. If y'all want to pause, y'all can read it. Ashlee wanted to get married on 11/11/27. She always would tell me it's 11:11 when I would show up on the clock. When it would show up on the clock. Later this summer, I plan to do a very private celebration of her life event in her honor. I've also begun the process of setting up a 501c3 foundation to properly honor Ashlee's legacy and to aid others who are grappling with mental health issues. I'll be making more detailed announcement about the 501c3 at an appropriate time in the near future. Charlie Neff, if you could say anything to Ashlee's family, what would you say? As a father myself, I can't imagine how difficult it must be to lose a child. I hope that you are able to find a small measure of peace thinking about the incredible impact that Ashlee made during her time on earth and the impact that her legacy will have for years to come. Ashlee was my soulmate and I will never allow her to be forgotten. Charlie Neff, I want to now talk about the aftermath, specifically the backlash you received since her death. How has that been for you? Joe McCann, in a word, horrifying. The day after Ashlee passed, I had no time to grieve as I immediately began cooperating with the authorities in their investigation. I could have flown home on my own volition on April 10th, but I skipped the flight to stay back and ensure that Ashlee got home first. The legacy media and social media trolls began to run with a patently false narrative of suspicion, which exasperated the tragic situation. I began to receive a barrage of racially fueled death threats. I still do today. Moreover, my family's safety was at risk as well as the safety of family members, friends, employees. It's been incredibly painful to lose Ashlee. The hate, vitriol, and lies told by so many in service of the lie that I somehow had anything to do with her death have made the grief that much more difficult to comprehend. Do you feel race contributed to the hate you were and are receiving? Joe McCann, without question. The false narrative that some members of the legacy media and online trolls decided to run with was about race, wealth, and power, not the mental health issues that afflicted Ashlee. She never would have wanted this. Although Ashlee was proud of her heritage, she never defined herself or others by race. She looked at everyone on their individual merits. In a way, did you understand? Okay, so Charlie Nutt says, in a way, did you understand where suspicions were coming from, even if you disagree with them? He says, of course, as mentioned, the false story from the media was about race, wealth, and power, but I also became a Girardian scapegoat. I'm referring to the writings of the contemporary philosopher, the late Rene Girard, and his view on scapegoating aligns perfectly with my experience. When a group of people are suffering from pain and anger and frustration from an acute event, Ashlee's suicide, they find an object to sacrifice, me. And only when that object or person is expelled or eliminated do they have the strength to move on from the source of the pain. There are myriad instances of Girard's scapegoating concept across history. I'm just one of many recent examples. The tragedy of this circumstance is that the focus should be on remembering Ashlee's greatness and preserving Ashlee's legacy. Given the suspicions that were raised, it was of the utmost importance to have an investigation into Ashlee's tragic death that was comprehensive, forensic, and professional. I'm extremely grateful for the dedication and effort put in by the litany of agencies and individuals involved, including Deputy Director Chimbera, the entire Tanzania Police Force, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Zanzibar Commission, a bunch of people, y'all. A bunch of people. Charlie Neff says, how did the official findings affect you emotionally? Did they bring any sense of closure? Joe McCann says, obviously, I already knew the truth and have been grieving the entire time. When the official findings were announced, I felt a deep sense of renewed pain, but also purpose. Ashlee's story needs to be told so we can honor and cherish what she brought to this world. Her death will not be in vain and her legacy will be preserved. Charlie Neff, how has your life changed since losing Ashlee? Joe McCann, it's been absolutely devastating and incomprehensible. None of it feels real. Ashlee's death has been a nightmare of nightmares. Everything in my life today reminds me of her and her absence and a constant reminder of the tragedy that has taken place. Charlie Neff, what do you miss most about her? Joe McCann, everything. Ashlee had such an outsized impact on my life that there isn't a specific thing that I miss about her. I miss it all. Charlie Neff, what do you want the world to remember about Ashlee Jenae? Joe McCann, I don't want the world to remember Ashlee Jenae. I want the world to remember Ashley Robinson, my soulmate and best friend. I want people to understand her incredible story of how she navigated life, her creativity, her intelligence, her gifts, and ultimately her love for the very select people she let into her life. The ending of her story is an incomprehensible tragedy, but the chapters of her life that preceded need to be shared, and it's my mission to do just that. If you or someone you know is struggling, call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. He has updated. I did a previous video showing some things that he's posted on his Instagram, which is now called i.cannot.tell.u. And looks like it's dedicated to clearing his name. One of the recent things he posted was, when your soulmates only wish is to be a mom, you do anything to make it happen, right? I don't know what all these texts are. She's telling somebody that Joe, her fiance or boyfriend at the time, got a vasectomy reversal so we can have a kid. Joseph, I know that we have a visit Monday, but I couldn't wait that long to let you know that you had millions of swimming sperm in the sample that you dropped off. Congratulations. Let's chat more on Monday. So I guess he went and got a reversal. She said in text, so I need to test my ovulation at home again. If I don't get my period or a positive test by the time I see her next on the 30th, I have to do blood work. He says, okay, love, are you okay? She says the lack of period is kind of alarming, especially for the timing. He says, yeah, totally, but your cycle been kind of jacked up all year, right? She says, by all year, you mean 2026? He says, yes. She says, because my cycle has been fine up until that Vegas trip. And he says, I thought the prenatals threw you off and intense cramps. So they continue conversation about, her physical, reproductive stuff. Okay. So like I said, she says, I'm so stressed I'm not ovulating. So he's wanting everyone to feel. And so she was kind of thrown for a loop, and this possibly not being able to carry a child kind of took her over the edge. Then he said, oh, darn it. Then he said, y'all follow me on Instagram, Houston Foodie 713. Then he said an hour ago, the media said Ashlee's belongings were missing. The records show where they went. So he's blaming, legacy media and other social media influencers for spinning this story. TMZ said her things still unaccounted for, body returned to family. But then he shows the real receipts. Joseph Isaac McCann, formal request for recovery and return of personal property. Attaches a formal letter signed by me and my attorney requesting property that I purchased and that Ashlee used when we traveled. I'm submitting this request to identify whether the items were sent back to the family, the address they were sent to, or if they are still in Corona funeral services so I may retrieve them. I've also attached supporting documentation showing my credit card purchases. These items are very important to me and will help me with my grieving process. Please acknowledge receipt of this email. If possible, please reach out to Corona on my behalf to help locate the items. Greetings. We received your message this morning and followed up with Corona Funeral Homes regarding the status of the shipment. Corona Funeral Homes confirmed they received the personal belongings from the police and shipped them to the legal next of kin shortly after the remains were repatriated. Please note, Corona did not receive an inventory list from the police, and they did not open the bags to conduct independent inventory. However, Corona shared the attached photo, which appears to show the items you are inquiring about. The 2 items marked with a green dot were returned to you. The remaining items were included in the shipment to the family. We met with Marcy today at 4:30 to discuss your case. Unfortunately, we have no new updates from the Tanzania authorities regarding the return of your passport. We're continuing to engage with them and pressuring for its immediate release. Okay, this is the American Citizen Services Unit at the U.S. Embassy, Dar es Salaam. These are all of all of their belongings. They returned 2 things to him and the rest to next of kin. The morning started at the Malindi police station before I was supposed to attend her autopsy. So he's showing he did everything he could to get the investigation going, get her body back to her family, get her things returned. This picture's captioned the mortuary where the autopsy was conducted. Ashlee was inside. Hours later, our belongings arrived. I agree that I took 2 bags that are my belongings. I had to go through everything. I could smell Ashlee's perfume. I could see her wigs and hats. I couldn't stand up, collapsing to the ground. Oh, I don't know, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I mean, at this point, he'd have to be pretty sharp to pull a deliberate offing of this woman and be able to provide all these receipts. Oh, Lord, I know this was long. Hopefully, y'all can get through it. Drop down in the comments and let me know what y'all think. At this point, I'm leaning towards she took her own life. It could have been the concussion. The concussion could have also totally warped her mind or made her brain kind of flip. And who knows, anything else she could have been taking or not taking that she was supposed to take. It could have been anything, y'all. But at this point, I don't blame the fiance anymore. I'm thinking her parents are hiding the fact that she had some mental issues and hiding some things, some trauma that she experienced in her childhood. All right, y'all, please hype this video, like, comment, share. Make sure you're subscribed. And thanks for watching. Bye.